For years we've been sold this dream of AI giving us a future with way less work. But now that AI tools are everywhere, a very different reality seems to be setting in. So let's dive into this really unexpected paradox.
Yeah, that's the shocking takeaway from a whole wave of new research. Instead of freeing up our time, studies are suggesting that generative AI is actually expanding our responsibilities and making our workdays even more intense. So what on earth happened to that dream of automation giving us more free time? Let's unpack it.
For a long time, this was the whole point, right? We were all told that technology was supposed to lighten the load, not add to it.
That's right, just 15 hours. The famous economist John Maynard Keynes predicted this way back in 1930. His whole idea was that as we got more and more productive, we'd all get to kick back and work way less. What a great vision, right? But with just a few years left till that 2030 deadline, our reality looks completely different.
So what's actually happening? Well, let's look at the numbers. Recent studies have been digging into almost 2 decades of data on how we use our time, and they found a really clear and honestly kind of strange trend.
So one big study found that people in jobs with a lot of AI exposure are already working an extra 2.2 hours every single week compared to people in jobs that are less exposed. And get this, it looks like that trend is speeding up. A more recent analysis found that after ChatGPT really took off, that number jumped to an extra 3.15 hours a week. It's like the more powerful the AI gets, the more hours we end up putting in. How does that make any sense?
And look, these extra hours have to come from somewhere, right? The data is pretty clear. They're being shaved off of our personal lives, specifically from things like just relaxing, entertainment, and hanging out with our friends and family.
Okay, so this raises the big question. If AI is making us so much more efficient, why in the world are we working more? Well, it turns out the answer is tied to a classic economic theory and some fascinating new research into how we act at work.
It's this thing called the Jevons paradox. Now, I know it sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Back in the 1800s, more efficient steam engines didn't lead to less coal being used, they led to more coal being used. Today, the same thing's happening, but the resource isn't coal, it's us. It's our attention and our brain power. As AI makes it easier and faster to produce work, the demand for more work just explodes.
And this breaks down the cycle we get caught in perfectly. First, AI speeds up our tasks. Right away, that raises the expectations for how fast and how much everyone should be doing. Then, we start expanding what our jobs even are, taking on new tasks we couldn't handle before. And finally, our workday gets denser. What that means is fewer breaks, less downtime, just a constant, non-stop flow of tasks.
And man, this quote from an engineer really just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? You get this initial rush thinking, wow, I can get so much done. Maybe I can work less. But then the reality sinks in that the pile of work hasn't actually shrunk. It's just gotten bigger, leaving you feeling even busier than before.
So this whole cycle, it's not just about working more hours. It's creating this dangerous chain reaction of stress and burnout that is having a real human cost.
Wow. Just look at that number for a second. 96%. A recent survey found that nearly every single employee is feeling stressed out about workplace changes being driven by AI. This isn't some small issue affecting a few people. It's practically universal.
Okay, I know this looks a little complicated, but check this out. This heat map shows a clear chain reaction. Just follow the bright, hot colors from left to right. You can see it. More AI use links directly to higher tech stress. That stress then leads straight to career burnout. And what does burnout lead to? A strong desire to quit. It's a really clear and pretty worrying path. And this techno-stress isn't just one vague feeling. Researchers have actually broken it down into these 5 different pressures. Feeling totally overloaded by new tools, work invading your personal life, the complexity of having to learn all these new systems, feeling insecure about maybe being replaced, and just the constant uncertainty of everything always changing.
So if almost everyone is feeling this pressure, why isn't more being done to fix it? Well, it looks like a big part of the problem is a huge disconnect between what leaders are seeing and what their employees are actually going through day to day.
So on one side, you have executives who think their company has a clear AI plan and that everyone's using it. But then you talk to the employees and they're reporting a serious lack of training. In fact, one survey found they're spending almost 40% of their time just checking and fixing the mistakes that AI makes. It's being called a rework crisis that leadership might not even know is happening.
And this quote from the Harvard Business Review researchers just sums the whole thing up perfectly. The very thing that makes AI so incredible, its ability to help us do more, faster, is also what makes it so hard to control, trapping us in this cycle of always needing to produce more.
So, at the end of the day, as these tools become a bigger and bigger part of our lives, the real question we all have to ask ourselves is right here on the screen. Is AI helping your workload, or is it just increasing it? Is it a tool that's going to set us free, or is it just a more efficient engine for burnout? It seems like the answer is still up to us to decide.